Loving someone for their potential is a guaranteed recipe for breaking your own heart. It is a specific kind of lonely suffering where you are not actually in a relationship with the human being standing in front of you. Instead, you are in a relationship with a hologram. You are interacting with a projection of who they could be if they just went to therapy, or if they just got that new job, or if they just realized how much you love them. You are in love with a future timeline that does not exist, and you are missing the reality of the present moment. This dynamic is what psychologists call a fantasy bond. It is a concept originally developed by Dr. Robert Firestone to describe a specific illusion of connection. A fantasy bond is not the same thing as having hope. Hope is based on evidence. Hope looks at a partner who is actively trying to change and says, "I believe in you." A fantasy bond is based on denial. It looks at a partner who is stagnant, hurtful, or emotionally unavailable and says, "I will wait for you to become someone else." It is a defense mechanism designed to keep us feeling safe, but the cost is true intimacy. We need to understand why the brain constructs this fantasy. It is not because you are foolish. It is usually because reality is painful, and the human attachment system is terrified of severing a bond. If the reality of your relationship is that your partner is cold, critical, or indifferent, accepting that truth might require you to leave. Leaving triggers primal abandonment fears. So, to avoid the pain of separation, the mind edits the footage. It overlays a filter of potential over the harsh reality. You stop interacting with the person who hurts you, and you start interacting with the person they were in the first 3 months, or the person they promised to be in their wedding vows. This creates a state of suspended animation. You are not living in the now. You are living in the when. You tell yourself that things will be good when he is less stressed. Things will be romantic when the kids are older. Things will be safe when she gets over her past trauma. You become a time traveler, skipping over the painful present to live in a hypothetical future. But a relationship can only exist in the present tense. If you cannot connect with your partner today, as they are, you are not connecting at all. You are engaging in a solitary act of imagination. One of the most common symptoms of the fantasy bond is the habit of making excuses. You become the PR manager for your partner's bad behavior. If they snap at you, you rationalize it instantly. You tell yourself they had a hard day at the office. If they forget your birthday, you tell yourself they are just not good with dates. You attribute their cruelty to their circumstances rather than their character. This effectively separates their actions from your perception of them. In your mind, they are still a good, loving partner who is just temporarily obstructed by stress. But if the stress has lasted for 5 years, it is no longer a circumstance, it is a lifestyle. Another powerful engine of the fantasy bond is the snapshot of the beginning. Almost every relationship starts with a chemical high. During the courtship phase, or the honeymoon phase, we are all on our best behavior. We are flooded with dopamine. We are attentive, affectionate, and exciting. For the person prone to fantasy bonds, this initial period becomes the only reality that matters. You might have been with someone for 10 years, and for the last 9 years, they have been emotionally absent. Yet you cling to the first year as the real them. You view the 9 years of absence as an anomaly and the 1 year of presence as the truth. This is a cognitive error. The beginning of a relationship is a presentation. It is an advertisement. The reality of a person is who they are when the chemicals fade. The reality is how they handle conflict, how they manage boredom, and how they treat you on a rainy Tuesday when they are tired. If you are constantly trying to get back to the beginning, you are trying to resurrect a ghost. You are ignoring the vast majority of the data in favor of the outlier. We also have to look at how this dynamic serves the person engaging in it. It sounds counterintuitive, but maintaining a fantasy bond allows you to avoid true vulnerability. Real intimacy is terrifying. It requires you to be seen by another person, which means you can be rejected. It requires you to see another person clearly, which means they can disappoint you. By staying in a fantasy, you maintain a sense of control. You can script the relationship in your head. You can imagine the conversations you want to have. You can perfect the connection in your mind without the messiness of another human being's actual participation. It is a way of being safe, but it is also a way of being alone. The danger of loving potential is that it is inherently disrespectful to the other person. When you treat someone as a renovation project, you are not loving them. You are loving your vision of them. You are subtly telling them that they are not enough as they are. You are waiting for them to upgrade themselves so they can be worthy of your full satisfaction. This creates a hidden pressure in the relationship. The other person can feel that you are disappointed in them, even if you never say it out loud. They feel the weight of your expectation, and often, they rebel against it by becoming even more entrenched in their current behavior. So how do we break this spell? How do we stop dating the potential and start dating the reality? It requires a process of radical disillusionment. This word sounds negative, but it is actually healing. To be disillusioned means to be freed from an illusion. It means seeing what is true. A critical, safe practice to begin this process is the as-is test. This is a mental exercise that cuts through the fog of potential. You need to sit down in a quiet space and ask yourself a terrifying question. If this person never changes from this day forward, is this relationship enough for me? If they never go to therapy, if they never become more affectionate, if they never learn to communicate better, if this is the final product, can I be happy? For those in a fantasy bond, the answer is almost always a resounding no. The relationship is only sustainable because you believe it is temporary. You are enduring the present because you believe you are paying for a better future. When you remove the future from the equation, you are left with the raw data of the present. If the answer is no, you are not in a relationship, you are in a waiting room. You are waiting for a person who may never arrive. Another practical tool is to audit the difference between words and actions. People with avoidant or narcissistic tendencies are often very good at future faking. They will tell you exactly what you want to hear about the future. They will talk about marriage, trips, and changes they plan to make. These words feed the fantasy. To break the bond, you must stop listening to the audio track and start watching the video. Take a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle. On the left side, write down what they have promised or what they say they value. On the right side, write down their concrete actions over the last 90 days. Do not include their intentions. Do not include their excuses. Only list what they physically did. Did they plan the date? Did they apologize and change the behavior? Did they show up? When you look at this list, the gap between the fantasy and the reality becomes undeniable. It moves the problem from a vague feeling of dissatisfaction to a concrete set of facts. Breaking a fantasy bond feels like a death. It is a grieving process. You are not just losing the relationship you have. You are losing the relationship you thought you were going to have. You are mourning the loss of the future you built in your mind. This grief is necessary. It is the pain of the frozen limb beginning to thaw. When you stop using your energy to prop up an illusion, that energy returns to you. You can start to use it to build a life that is actually happening. It is also important to recognize that real love, healthy love, is grounded. It is not a floating sensation of euphoria and possibility. It is heavy. It has texture. It involves accepting the person standing in front of you, warts and all. Secure love does not require you to edit out the flaws. It allows for flaws, but it does not allow for abuse or neglect. There is a difference between accepting that your partner is messy and accepting that your partner is cruel. One is a quirk, the other is a wound. When you let go of the potential, you create space for something real. You might find that once you stop pressuring your partner to change, you can actually enjoy who they are. Or, more likely, you might find that once you strip away the fantasy, there is nothing left to hold you there. And while that realization is painful, it is the only path to freedom. You deserve to be loved for who you are, not for who you could be. And you owe it to yourself to love someone for who they are, not for the movie you have written about them in your head. The ultimate takeaway is that you cannot love a potential person. You can only love a real one. Potential is a gamble. Reality is an investment. Stop betting your life on what might happen and start investing in what is actually happening. If the reality is not enough, no amount of wishing will make it so. Real intimacy begins when the fantasy ends.